All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for today's Career Cafe Visit Series. We are really thrilled that you're here. Thank you for taking time to be here. And we also want to especially thank our guest speakers, Ms. Jasmine Bates, who's our very own PHHS behavioral specialist at Patrick Henry High School. And also we have Ms. Nakia Madison, who is a licensed clinical social worker with Healing Well Therapy Enrichment. So again, thank you both for being here. We're very fortunate to have you. And today's topic is on careers in counseling and mental health, which certainly is a very important topic, a great need that we have, certainly now in the time that we're in. And Ms. Bates and Ms. Madison are going to share some with you about their experience in the field, and also job opportunities and just other information that they feel is important to share with students that are interested in careers in counseling and mental health. So just a couple of housekeeping things. Again, if you could make sure that you are on mute during today's presentation. And also, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will be monitoring that throughout today. And then also we will make time at the end of today's presentation for any questions that you may have then as well. So with that, I am going to go ahead and share or turn everything over to Ms. Bates. And again, thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are well. My name is Jasmine Bates. I'm at Patrick Henry High School, and I'm a part of the school counseling department as the student and behavioral health specialist. So I'm just going to kind of start off with telling you a little bit of my educational background, my career background. And again, as Ms. Edwards said, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. You can also message me on Schoology if you ever want to chat one-on-one, if you're interested in anything I may say today, or email me. I'm absolutely open to talking with you about more beyond this opportunity today. So just really quickly, and I did this, it's very kind of generic because I kind of wanted to talk through it and kind of explain my background. So a little bit about the degrees that I have to get me to the point that I am. So I do have a degree in English from Virginia Union University. And then I went on to Virginia State University, and I have a master's degree in counselor education. And then in July, I will have my graduate certificate in administration and supervision at VCU. And so all of those degrees will make sense once I kind of talk about my positions and what's required. I will go into this in saying, if you are looking to make millions of dollars, this is not necessarily the career field for you. However, there are opportunities for you to do so many things, whether it's within the school or without the school. And I feel like I'm rich in opportunities and experiences that I've had with students. That's the first question I always get, but y'all don't make a lot of money. We don't, but bills are paid and I'm happy and I absolutely love what I do. This is the end of my 16th year and I wouldn't have chosen anything else. So it's a great opportunity. If you love working with people, this is definitely a career field you would want to consider. So when I graduated from college with a degree in English, I was a middle school English teacher in Henrico County. So I taught middle school English grades 6th, 7th, and 8th for 3 years. My last year teaching, I decided to go back to school full time as because I wanted to be a school counselor. My last year of graduate school, I was unable to teach full time because I had to do a full-time internship, and I did that at Deep Run High School in Henrico County. But because I did have some classes under my belt for graduate school and a degree, I was able to be an in-home counselor part-time while I was in school. So just what that is just someone, you do have to have a bachelor's degree and you're able to work with children under the ages of 18. You actually give them services in their home. So similar to what we would do as a school counselor from the personal and social aspect of things, with supporting students with things that they're having difficulty with, but I was able to do that outside of the school setting while still going to school. So that is an opportunity. And I've also done that part-time throughout the years, you know, just as a part-time position to give me different experiences outside of school counseling. So once I graduated with my master's, I became a school counselor. I was a school counselor in Williamsburg. Then I transitioned and I was an online school counselor in Chesterfield. So I've been both a face-to-face school counselor and an online school counselor. When I left Chesterfield, I moved to North Carolina and I was in Raleigh. And at that point, I was a high school counselor and I transitioned into an administrative role, which is Dean of Students. So Dean of Students in Virginia is a little different, but in North Carolina, Dean of Students is the administrator over the school counselors. So that was an opportunity for leadership. So that is something else that I want to highlight from the school perspective, is a lot of people think that if you become a school counselor, it stops there, but there are many opportunities for leadership, and a lot of the opportunities are similar to that of that teachers make it. So you can choose to be an assistant principal, but for me, I still wanted to work with students as a counselor. So I was able to become a Dean of Students where I was in a leadership position where I could help provide support for my colleagues, for my other counselors and school social workers, but I was also still able to work with students in that role. And then when I moved back to Virginia, I came here to PH as a student and behavioral health specialist. And what I do now is I work with students that just need a little more love. They just need some more individual counseling services. So I work with students that may be having some academic difficulty. They may have difficulty with attendance, and they may also have a difficulty with their behavior. And with behavior, it doesn't mean that they're, acting out. Behavior can be that they don't know how to appropriately work through their stress or appropriately work through their anxiety while they're at school. So I'm able to work with those students more one-on-one to offer them support. And that's what I needed the master's degree for, is to be a counselor. Now, I graduated in July from VCU with a grad certificate in administration and supervision. I apologize, I can't talk. So I do want to talk about what a grad certificate is. So when you get a master's degree, if you don't want to go back and get a second master's degree, if you're like, I just don't have the time, or my majors are so similar, there's no need. And that's kind of the boat I was in. I looked at the classes and I'm like, I've taken half of these. You are able to get a graduate certificate. And what that is you have a master's degree and you go back to school to get kind of an extension of that degree. So to be a principal, it's still a master's of education, but the concentration is administration and supervision. So I technically already have a master's of education. VCU is going to give me an extension of that degree to be an administrator. So I've already taken the test to become either a principal or an assistant principal. I find out those results in 2 weeks. So y'all check on me in 2 weeks, because I'm either going to be crying or celebrating. So I find that out in a couple of weeks. And that will just give me more options in my career. I'm not saying, next year I'm going to, be principal of PH or anything like that, but it just gives me more options and more opportunities. So if you are considering a career just in education, I started off as a teacher. I still have the credentials if I ever, which I never do, but if I ever decide to go back to teaching, I can do that. I have taught for Virtual Virginia part-time in the summer. So there are so many opportunities for you to do other things outside of your job description. So I've been able, because I know a lot of people talk about money, and I'm going to wrap up here in a second, but I've been able to make money outside of what I do 9 to 5 because I still have my certification to teach. And I also am qualified to do some other type of things outside of school counseling. This is also a great segue to Ms. Madison, who is a licensed school social worker, licensed LCSW, which is a therapist. I cannot talk today, you guys, but we do have some school counselors that are also licensed and can do things outside of education. So she's going to go more into that as far as the mental health side of that as well, and that other avenue to counseling. So I am sorry that I was just jumbling my words just now. Again, please leave your questions in the chat, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Madison. I'm going to shift PowerPoint presentation for just 2 seconds.
Good afternoon. So, can you go back a screen, please, Ms. Bates? Good afternoon. So my name is Nakia Madison. I have a similar background to Ms. Bates, except I just went the path of a social worker. I wanted to be a social worker because my godmother, who's also my great aunt, took me to Take Your Daughter to Work Day, and I wanted to be in a career where I was able to help people. And when I got to her job, I said, here it is, and this is what I'm going to do. And a lot of times when people hear that I'm a social worker, they immediately think, oh, do you go and you remove kids from people's homes? Do you hand out benefits? And it's like, no, the career of social work is very wide, and it just depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. So I'll share my path to becoming a licensed clinical social worker. I got a 4-year degree, like Ms. Bates, from Virginia Union University, but it was a bachelor in social work. So when I graduated from Virginia, all of my studies were very specific to the field of social work, and I had a professional degree, meaning that I could come out of my college with a degree that made me a professional social worker just right out of the gate. So it took 4 years to do that. I came out, I worked in the field a little bit, and I said, I want to make a little bit more money. So after working a year, I decided to go to Virginia Commonwealth University, where I got my master's in social work. I put 1 to 2 years there because they have 2 options for you as students. Because I came out of school with a grade point average of 3.5 or better, I was able to get my master's through their advanced standing program. So that meant it only took me 1 year. So because my 4 years of school basically kind of equaled that first year in the program, which is a foundation year, teaching you the language and helping you to understand how social workers think and the language that we use. So I completed my master's in a year. And then after that, I worked in the field for a while in various aspects. So I worked in a residential treatment center, which was basically a place where kids come that are put into foster care and they have issues. I worked for one that was a diagnostic and assessment program, which meant kids came there specifically to find out, okay, they have this behavior, but what's really going on? And that's where I started as a counselor. I was the case manager, and they said, oh, we need somebody to be in the counseling position. Nakia, what do you think? You have your master's and you're able to do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. But I eventually did it, and I fell in love. So basically, through working through that position, I transitioned to working with kids in the school setting through therapeutic day treatment, where I still was in a counseling role. However, as time kind of progressed, the different insurance companies kind of made different rules on who can do what. So I had to get my license, and that's when I became a licensed clinical social worker. So when I did that, I had to have 2 years of supervision under somebody who was already a licensed clinical social worker. So in a sense, I kind of had like a professional mentor who taught me how to do things like diagnose, how to collect information, how to work with clients, how to read body language, and understand communication skills. And after I had that 2-year period of supervision, I then had to take a standardized licensing test, which can be very stressful for anybody who has to do it. But once I took the test, I became known as a licensed clinical social worker, and that opened up a host of opportunities for me. So that's where I work as an outpatient therapist now. So basically what I do is I meet with all kinds of people who decide that they just need a little bit more help and support, whether dealing with mental health or other needs that they're experiencing. One of the requirements of me maintaining my license, though, is I have to complete what's called continuing education credits. So that means every so often I have to participate in a class, or I have to go to a conference to show that I'm staying current on what's going on and how we render services to people. And so I work as a therapist, but like Ms. Bates, I also have done intensive in homes where I've been kind of like a counselor in the home. And I also work for other companies where they, and I do their assessment paperwork. So I just collect information that decides whether the people meet criteria for their programs. And it's mostly people that have mental health issues. And I basically diagnose them with their mental health issue, which means I just look at what they're going through, decide what the best fit for it is, and then, just put a category for what they're dealing with. Okay, I'm ready for the next slide. I knew money would come up, so I found like how much money does a clinical social worker make in Virginia. So basically the average salary for a clinical social worker is $71,400, and that's as of March 29th. Now here's what I'm gonna say. You're not gonna come out of your bachelor's degree making $71,000. I wasn't even making $71,000 with my master's. I had to be licensed in order to be able to get that much money. And with that much money comes a lot of responsibility, because in each role that I've had, I'm usually the person that makes sure that that everything that we're providing to the client is really done clinically appropriate, which means we're making sure we take care of the client the best way possible. So there is money in the field, but like Ms. Bates said, you have to kind of work your way up to get to where you are. And because I'm licensed, I can also act as an adjunct professor. So in my field of social work, you can get your license, or you can go further and get your doctorate. If you get your doctorate in social work, that helps open you up to being able to do research and teach on a college level, where you know, can become a professional, like a career professor, when that's all you do. Or you can go the track that I went, and you can pick up a class or two here and there and kind of be like a part-time professor. So I also do that as well, to help teach up and coming social workers the skills that they need, so that they can be ready when they get out in the field. And that's all I have for you. Oh, sorry. These are all the roles I've held. Thank you, Jasmine. I've been a clinician, which means I just run. I've ran the intensive in-home department. I've been a clinical director and clinical supervisor. As a clinical supervisor, I supervise people who want to become licensed. I'm an independent clinical contractor is another word for entrepreneur. I basically work for myself and contract with different people, providing clinical needs and training their staff. And then I'm the outpatient therapist, and I'm also a professor. I think I'm done for real this time.
Thank you. Thank you both, you know, for sharing kind of your personal experiences. It makes such a difference, I think, for students, for people on this meeting, you know, and that this will go out to, just to understand, you know, that Jasmine, you started as a teacher, you know, I mean, just to understand the different roles that you all have had and how you've progressed over time, and that there's lots of options and pathways for people to take in these fields of mental health or school counseling or whatever, counseling, whatever it might be. So if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat at this time, or ask them live on our visit right now. I do want to ask one question of you all. So the time that we're in with COVID and restrictions and things, what do you all recommend for students that want to get some experience in any of these fields? What should they do? You know, should they be calling schools to ask about opportunities? What's the best way to kind of get, I guess, your foot in the door, some experience or opportunities?
I'll speak on my end from the school end. For me, when I was in high school, I knew early on I wanted to be a school counselor, but because of some sensitivity with information, you can't necessarily, you know the ins and outs of what school counselors do at the high school. But what I did my senior year is I became an aide for my school counseling office. That really helped me. And you may think, oh, they just run passes, but I was very intentional, because I knew at 17, I knew I was going to be a counselor. And so what I did is everything, and I'm sure I got on my school counselor's nerves, but whatever, she loves me. But I asked if I saw a certain document, or if I saw something happen in the office, I asked questions. There were times that she told me, I can't tell you, but then there were also times that she pulled me aside and said, this is why. She also gave me opportunities to be like a peer mentor. So I would link up with freshmen, because she knew that I was interested. So long answer to say, if you're interested on the school aspect, go see your school counselor and tell them that, because then they will give you opportunities, because they'll say, hey, Jasmine told me that she wants to be a school counselor. I have this opportunity or something that she can help me with. So that's what I did. I became an aide my senior year in high school. And because I stayed local my first year of college, I continued to volunteer at my high school counseling office in between my classes. And once I graduated, that opened more doors for me of what I could do. I still couldn't speak directly to students because I had just graduated, but I was able to do a little bit more that year than I was able to do my senior year in high school.
Great advice. Thank you. Ms. Madison, would you say anything from the private practice standpoint any thoughts?
It's pretty much the same as what Jasmine just mentioned, because everything is so like sensitive as far as information for clients that specifically, I would encourage students to use the internet and like to look up careers to see what they need to do. Because if you know what you need to do, I'm a big stickler on not just having the skills that you need, but going above and beyond so that you can make yourself the best candidate for whatever you're looking for, right? So I was able to get my master's in a year because I made sure that I didn't earn less than a B. And that was really, I knew I was getting a master's, but I was like, oh, I'll have to do 2 years because that was but then I found a school and multiple schools that offer the 1-year program. So
Right.
that was easy. I would just say look into not only careers, but even like there's a lot of things going on now with mental health and catchphrases like mindfulness and meditation. I would say look into some of those things too, just to kind of see how they're practiced and implement them, because a large part of my job, because I'm human like everybody else. I'm living through the same time you're living. So I have to be self-aware and be able to manage my own emotions effectively before I can go and help somebody else manage their emotions.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And
Thank
just really quickly to piggyback off what Ms. Madison said, because I know a lot of people like YouTube and social media, there are a lot of mental health professionals that vlog their daily lives. I watch some of them just to kind of get some camaraderie, even though I've never met them. So if you're really interested, especially more on the private sector where it's a lot of the information is confidential, just go to YouTube and search therapist or a licensed clinical social worker or what have you, and then subscribe to a channel of somebody that vlogs their life in that career choice that you're interested in.
Nakia, I had a question for you real quick.
Okay.
So as a school counselor, we have situations all the time that come up, and it's something that we can handle. And sometimes there's things where students come to us and it's a situation where we need to refer out. So as a licensed social worker, what kind of situations are your big situations that you do deal with, and what kind of situations are the ones that you look at and you say, I've got to know as a professional, this is not me, I've got to refer this person elsewhere?
So most of what I'm dealing with, especially with like high school age kids to like young adulthood, like maybe 25 years old, is dealing with like life transitions. So leaving high school and going to college, and then coming out of college and becoming an adult, but not really knowing what that looks like. So I'm okay with that. When I refer out when I deal with people that experience like trauma that's so significant that I know that it's above my scope of what I can do for them. So, they sit and they explain to me, and then we do some work. But if I see that I'm not able to meet their needs, I let them know immediately, and I help them find somebody else who would. So I might tell them, hey, give me a week, let me do some research, and then I'll come up with like a list of referrals for them. If it's something like you want to refer out from a counselor and refer them to like an outpatient therapist, there's psychology.com, there's a lot of different sites. There's Therapy for Black Girls. There's a lot of different sites that'll tell you about therapists in your area. But I'm really big on knowing my cap on what I can and can't do, because I think you do more harm to people and you help them when you really don't know how to help them manage what they're dealing with.
Thank you. This is really great advice. We're really fortunate to get to hear your expertise. I guess one final question I just had for you both is, obviously you deal with some very, important, traumatic, sometimes stressful situations. And sometimes as a counselor, a question that I will get is, or a concern, I guess, of somebody going into this field is, how am I going to separate myself from it, when I go home at the end of the day? And so what do you all do? What do you recommend, that for students, just to kind of think through, it is a job you can do, but you do have to have that balance at the same time. Just
do you mind if I Do you mind if I answer first, Jasmine? So here's the thing. I was helping people deal with their different life issues, but it was triggering stuff for myself. I got a therapist. So I have a therapist that I see once a quarter. And that helps me to dump my stuff. I listen to a lot of music. I listen to podcasts. I do a lot of things that don't pull on me emotionally. I could probably redo your whole school because I watch a lot of HGTV and Food Network stuff. So I watch a lot of stuff that doesn't require a lot of an emotional tug on me. And I talk to people when I'm not okay. I was like, okay, I'm not okay, and I need to talk. So that's what I basically do that.
I would say the same. I think sometimes you do take it home, if we're being honest. There are times that I lay in bed and I think of certain students or certain situations, but you have to know when to unplug. And as you get into the field, you have to know your threshold. So something that one of my professors did with us the very first semester I was in grad school, and we worked through some things, and she said, write a list of situations that you just know you probably can't handle or you wouldn't handle appropriately. And you have to be very transparent with yourself. I know there are certain things, because of things that have happened in my own life, that I wouldn't do diligence to the student if it ever came across. And I'm aware of that, and I typically make that known. You also need to have, I know at the school level, somebody to kind of bounce things off of. Me and Miss Edwards, when she is here at PH, our next door, sometimes I go over there and we might talk about work, we might talk about kids, but that's kind of my person that I can decompress with. I have a great department. I too have a therapist. I go to therapy very regularly. Sometimes we just sit and talk about great things. And sometimes I really have to process what is going on, because we need that. So you need to know how to unplug, and you have to know your threshold. You have to know your limit. We are not superheroes. And that's with anything that you do in life. Whether you're a student and you're going to do something else, you don't have to know it all. You don't have to figure it all out. It's okay to say, I need help. And it's okay to seek that help. So I too see a therapist. I used to be very ashamed of that. I am no longer ashamed of that, because it is part of, just like I wash my body every day, I need to go to therapy. It's part of my maintenance. So that would be what I would recommend.
Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your all's time. Thank you so much. If students have questions beyond today, if they reach out to us, would you be okay if they wanted to reach out to one of you all or both of you? Would that be okay with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay. All right. Great. Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much for being here. I won't keep you past our 1 o'clock time, or maybe it's 1:01, but this was valuable information. We hope you come back to future Career Cafe events, and we will be in touch soon. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.